This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we have a washing machine that is filling too slowly. We're going to have to move it out of a real tight closet. So I'm going to spray some white lithium grease underneath the feet of this washing machine. You could also use Windex, oil, any kind of slippery substance would be great. It just helps to break the friction. I'm going to reach in and grab here on the inside of the washing machine. I've opened the door. And I'm going to pull on the left side a few inches, then on the right side a few inches, back and forth. And I'm going to try to wiggle this thing out of the tight closet that it's in. So this is important that I can get the dryer off of this washing machine to do this repair. And sometimes when the dryer is on top and it's inside of a closet, it's a little tricky. When you do this, take your time. Be careful as you're pulling it out. If it appears to be stuck, you don't want to pull too hard because there may be a gas line or a water line that is already taut and can't go any further. So if you can somehow look back there with your video camera to see what's going on, or your phone, that'd be great, just so you can see if there's something that's being pulled that you don't want to damage. So in this case it was just a lot of friction, and by putting in that white lithium grease I was able to finally get the washer and dryer out of the closet. I'm going to spray a little bit more of this now on the back feet. These are rubber feet, so if you can get something slippery underneath, it really makes a difference. And one person can actually move these washers and dryers. It's not too hard. You just have to have something to break the friction. You have to know where to grab, and you have to use a low stance. Make sure you keep your knees bent so you don't hurt your back. So now I notice that the gas line here on the dryer is taut, and this is as far out as it can go. So I'm going to go out to the street side of the building, and I'll take my vice grips or crescent wrench and turn the gas valve 90 degrees to turn off the gas to the whole house. I'm going to remove now this gas line. Realize that when you do this, you're going to have to relight your water heater, maybe even your furnace, maybe even your oven. So you may want to arrange with the utility company to come out and do a relight for you. This was a bad installation. Usually these gas lines should be much longer, and that would allow you to get back behind it and shut off the gas at a gas valve that's just for the dryer. So now I'm pulling it out. I got it disconnected. I'm going to pull out both of them a little further, and I'm going to use my Phillips head screwdriver to take out a couple of screws here on the bracket that's on the back of the dryer. So I got to get this dryer off of the washing machine to do the repair. So I'm just spinning out these two Phillips head screws on the left bracket. I'll do the same thing on the right bracket. And I'm going to lift the bracket out of the dryer. So the dryer and the washing machine are now disconnected. I've got the dryer unplugged. I was able to pull the plug out of the wall. And I was able to take the vent tube off. Could wiggle it off. I had enough space to do that. And now I have a garbage can that was just outside, and I'm going to use that to slide the dryer onto, because these cans are just the right size, and also they have wheels, so you can wheel the dryer away. I'm pulling the dryer now by the frame, pulling it out on top of this garbage can. Just be careful, take your time. This is a little bit unstable. Now that it's on top of the garbage can, I just wheeled it through the kitchen out away from the closet because I need some room to work. Make sure there's no little kids around that are going to pull on this dryer because they're usually pretty unstable. So now I'm behind the washing machine. I got it unplugged, and I'm going to remove 3 screws that are holding the top on. I got to get the top off to get to the water valve to switch it out. Water valves get full of sediment and junk, or sometimes they just don't open enough. This one had both. It was full of junk and it was pretty old. It wasn't opening enough to let in enough water fast enough to avoid an error. So I'm pulling this top off. When the error comes on, the machine just shuts itself off. So here's the new valve. These are pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive. You can get them at Amazon.com, Reliable Parts, RepairClinic.com. I'm taking the modular power connectors now off of the fill valve. I'm going to just gently pry up on a little clip and pull them out. You may want to mark which one's which, because when you put them back, if you do it wrong, then the computer may fill cold when it means hot, and vice versa. So you might want to just take a picture or label them so you know which connector goes into which one of these solenoids. I'm using some pliers now, actually some vice grips, to take the spring clamp off of the hose. And I'm going to grab the hose and pull it off of the fill valve. This is the hose that takes water from the fill valve to the tub to wash your clothing. Then there's a little screw on the back that I got to remove, but I'll take the water hoses off first. So I'm going to use my pliers to get them loose and then just spin them off. I'm looking in there to see if there's some sediment in there. There definitely was. Take this one off. This time it may be good to put in braided water hoses, steel braided water hoses, instead of these rubber ones, because these sometimes can rupture and cause a flood. So take out this one Torx 15 screw that holds the valve in place, and I'll push in from the back, and I'll slide it a little bit to the right, push in, and then the valve comes out. So slide a little bit to your right and then push it out. And you can just pull it out of the machine. There we go. A whole bunch of crud on the cold side. Not too much on the hot side, but a lot of sediment, probably 85% occluded. That's the main problem the machine was complaining. Cold side usually gets used a lot more than the hot side. So here's the new one. I'm just going to slip it in. And once it's in, I'm going to pull it a little bit to my left, and then I'll put in that little set screw. It's a Torx 15 screw to hold it. Actually a pretty easy procedure, but in this case, because of how the washing machine was situated, it took just a lot of extra time, a lot of extra steps. Very doable though. So now I'm just running these hoses into the drain to push out any sediment. I'm turning them on and then turning them off. This is the hot side. The red side is the hot side. And now that that's done, I'll connect it. In this machine, it actually shows you which one is hot, which one is cold. Now be careful here. Make sure you do this where it goes on very easily. If it's not going on easy and you have to use pliers, it's cross-threaded, it'll strip the thread. So just take your time. The initial about 10 turns should go on really easy, and then you can use some pliers to get it a little tighter. Be careful though, because you're using metal on plastic threads. You don't want to strip it. You can put the hose back on, sped up the camera a little bit. And I'm flushing out the cold side. Get that one on. Again, just be careful here. Go slow. Get it on. Should be easy to turn. And last few turns, you want to use your pliers. There we go. And then we got to tighten up the spring clamp that's on the little black hose that goes between the valve and the tub. So we're going to use the pliers to squeeze and then pull that thing back so it's holding that hose arm tight. Then we're going to get our little electrical connectors back on. because of the length of the wire, it's really obvious which one goes where. But again, it may be good to either label these when you take them off or take a picture, because they're the same color. The solenoids are, one's yellow, one's white, but the modular connectors are both white. So we're turning on the hoses now, full pressure, to make sure there's no leak. Looks good. Looking for leaks here. Looks good. Just checking out this old valve. Put the top back on. Slide it in at the end, and then put those screws back in. Spin up the camera a little bit, we'll zip those in. We still got to plug this in and put the drain hose back. Then we'll climb out and get the dryer put back on. Here's the drain hose, goes back in. Got it plugged back in. Here's the plug. There we go. Again, changing these hoses to braided steel would be great. So now I'm wielding the dryer back. Just take your time here. Remember, it's a bit unstable, but since you have a wheel, just one person can pretty easily move these huge dryers. Figured this out one time when I was by myself, like, how am I going to move this giant dryer? And I came to realize that in the Bay Area here in California, pretty much every home has these same type of garbage cans or recycling bins. So I'm going to lift it up a little bit so I can get it at the height of the washing machine and just push it and slide it right on. Pretty easy. Get the garbage can out of there, and now we're just going to hook everything back up. This is a tricky procedure. Just everywhere I went in this procedure, there was very little room, but I was able to make it work. All right, so power hook back up, hook up the vent tube. Just sped this up a little bit. All right, got that tight. So we're going to put these little clips on again to hold the dryer to the washing machine. So get the one on the far right and one on the left. And we're going to put in a couple of Phillips head screws to hold it on. Use a special angle tool to tighten it. It was made by DeWalt. Great tool. Get it at Home Depot. All right, we're going to get the gas line back on. So I have very little room, but it's enough. So we're going to spin that on by hand. One hand's pushing the line in, the other one's spinning it on. Get it tight. Turn on the gas again, and everything worked. It cured the problem. Hope this is helpful to you. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe when you get a chance.